Hey folks, Bryon Howard here, eXp Real Estate Agent, Realtor Leader, Team Coach. Today on the show, I have James Festini. I've been watching James for many years, at least 15. And what an interesting guy he is. He's a vigorous door knocker, a super cold caller, and just an all-around hard worker. Well, without further ado, enjoy the show. Folks, welcome to another edition of Why I Joined eXp. Recently, I reached out to a kind of a hero of mine for a number of reasons, which you'll find out during the show. I just assumed he was with eXp already because, why wouldn't he be? And of course he was. I didn't Google him. I didn't take the time to find out which company he was with. James Festini, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
James, I'm a little bit like starstruck having this conversation with you because you've been in real estate a long time. Actually, I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me finding you. So I became a Mike Ferry trained agent probably like 2006-ish. And I think I sort of struggled a little bit with that concept probably to 2007 and 8 or so.
Right.
I think I discovered you about that time and you were doing like crazy stuff. You were like door knocking live and like just like really out there. So tell us a little bit about your situation. You're a dad, you have 4 kids, and you're still crushing it. And so tell us about your start in real estate. How long have you been with eXp? And a little bit about yourself.
So where did you find me originally? Like if you had to think about the first time you saw me live, probably, yeah.
It might have been, it could have been, I don't think it was any paid seminar. It was something social media like,
yeah,
but
of course.
What existed back then. I remember like, it actually could have been on My Daily Run, like early Strava or something. Like I was like, oh, well, one thing I'm better than James at is running. Like I was like, I can beat him.
Yeah, anyone can beat me at that. I'm pretty slow.
Yeah. It was like on something like that. It was like I had saw you somewhere else, and then I saw you more in my domain on something like Strava.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Well, I was on Strava for a while. I was running, lots of distances, and I took up tennis about a year ago and haven't been running, but I think I'm going to give it up, man. I got more injuries now with tennis than I do running. It's crazy, like shoulders and elbows. I'm going to go back to running. I had less injuries, believe it or not. But yeah, it's always funny to see how, because my crowd or audience or following, in my opinion, remains largely unpopular based on probably its behavior. Because what I do from day one, I started in 1993, and my mom and dad were both real estate agents. My dad was a buyer's agent, and he advertised in the paper and all that stuff. My mom was more of a listing agent and a transaction coordinator, and she did a lot of cold calling. So when I joined them, they had already been in the business 8 or 9 years, and I joined them in 93, right out of the Army. And when I joined them, I was already kind of gravitating towards being a listing agent and cold calling. And so I was never call reluctant or afraid to pick up the phone. But it was not just me. It was me, my younger sister, my older brother, and my older sister all had our licenses. I was the last one to come on board. But they were also kind of already picking up the phone and telemarketing for my parents. And we had a pretty good deal with them. But I would say it only took maybe less than 6 months before I knew I could go bigger. And the rest of my family, my siblings weren't really that much of hustlers. They didn't take it seriously, where I was latching on to all of the Tony Robbins and the Zig Ziglar. And back then it was only 2 real estate sales trainers. It was only Mike Ferry and Floyd Wickman. And that was it. There were a couple stragglers like Joe Stump and Buffini was on the background, but not really. But back then it was only 2 trainers. And so I left my parents, 6 months into it, broke out on my own, but it was always, since 1993, cold calling, literally picking up the phone. And my script has not changed since 1993. And if anything, it's been more effective now than ever because it's a short, simple, get to the point, get in and out. Yeah. And as soon as live streaming and social media, when I started top producer was on DOS, the old software program.
Yep.
And as it evolved, I really was lucky enough to be was very intrigued by the technology. So as websites came on, I was designing and doing the coding for my own website. And then finally, the real estate industry caught up where you could pay people to do that stuff. And then I would say probably by 2000, I started getting curious about dialing software instead of finger dialing. Because back then I would print out 2 telephone lists and I would look at the 2 lists and I would dial the numbers and kind of use my peripheral vision. And I would break apart 2 headsets for Plantronic headsets. And I would, what I call double fist. And I would dial 2 people at the same time back then. And I would manipulate the mute button and hold conversations. And I could get 100 to 200 contacts a day, what I call finger dialing.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, the do not call list didn't kick in until 2003. So pickup rates, these are things, you know, as we cold call and telemarket that are important now that weren't important then. The do not call list in 2003, caller ID, and the expectation and perception of the consumer when someone calls into their line, all sorts of psychology has evolved in the telephone. So as I started learning the technologies, you know, for cold calling, I implemented automated dialers and I evolved big time where I was doing all sorts of, you know, I was getting up to 600-700 contacts a day by phone. And then when the social media started kicking on, I remember going, I would say this was probably 2002 or 3. I started asking around at like Best Buy and Circuit City, if you remember them, about Firewire and how can I put a camera on me so I can record me and talk. And it was like another language because that didn't exist. I remember like, no, but I want to record my voice onto a camera and I want to do these videos and share them with people. And so I started doing like recordings of videos and burning them onto CDs and like printing onto the CD and dropping off my listing presentation on a CD and like printing onto the CD label. And then they came out with these CDs that were shaped like business cards for a couple spell. So I was handing out like these digital business cards. And so I was always just trying to like, and then finally, you know, smartphones, iPhone was 2007. And then the camera for the iPhone was like 2009. It didn't come out, and the first iPhone didn't have a camera. And so that evolved. And then live streaming. As soon as I was able to go live in 2009, I was hooked. And so I've always been in front of a camera, live streaming. And then in 2011, I did the strangest thing. I wanted to do live 24/7. So I called it a project 24/7 in 2011. And you got to remember, in the live streaming space, you couldn't go live on Facebook or YouTube. You couldn't do live. Like even just Skype was not a thing back then. Really, video conferencing was like Dick Tracy would like the phone on the to think like you would talk to someone on a phone was mind blowing. Even up until 2000, no one really could think like you would see someone's face. It evolved so quickly. We don't think about that. But in 2011. I went onto a platform, the only 2 or 3 platforms out there that did live streaming. One was called Ustream, one was Stickcam, Bamboozer, very small live streaming softwares. And I turned the camera on myself and I hit live and I mounted it to a selfie stick. This is before the selfie stick. And I had 4 or 5 battery packs. And I kid you not, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in 2011, I had a mounted camera and I would swap out batteries. And all day I had a camera following me and tracking me.
Wow.
For the entire year. And it was started on January because I was doing other things live. I was Santa Claus. I started a live Santa Claus show. It got really weird, but I did Santa Claus and I was like children's variety show where I started doing picture in picture and had nothing to do with James Festini, nothing to do with real estate, but I enjoyed production of video.
Yeah.
And so when I shut off the live stream of the Santa thing, I'm like, let me go 24/7. It was 2011. And so 2011 was a crazy year for me. Both my parents died. My sister got sick and like went into a coma. I changed my job. My wife got pregnant. I had left real estate because I was frustrated. I only left for like a week, but it's just the craziest year. And I did this all in front of a camera.
Wow.
And by mid-January, when I first started it, a company called Stickcam, which would be the equivalent now to like Instagram, was one of the big live ones, picked me up and put me on their front page of like a live caster. It's called live casting.
Yeah.
And I had over 1 million unique viewers, but it was so ahead of its time that no one really knew what to do with it. And it was, anyhow, we could talk about that for hours
Well, and
about
that's
the
my experience actually.
introspective journey. I might be when you found me. It was that
Yeah.
live cast.
And I was
There are a
thinking,
few people who remember that year
yeah.
where people just found me for some weird reason.
Yeah.
And then when I shut that down, I had gained so much experience on looking at a camera and being myself that, you know, that introspective journey into reflecting into a camera and whether people were watching or not really trained me to be comfortable on camera and let my guard down and just, you know, let it all out. And so again, Facebook Live was 2013, 14, YouTube, Instagram, all these live platforms now evolved into now where I just create content very freely with the vlogs and all of that other stuff. Nothing ever made me popular, but it was an opportunity at some point come back around and teach me how to create this video content that's so very important in our business, is to constantly create video about your industry or about yourself or something going on around you so that people gravitate towards you, and then you can say, oh, and by the way, I'm a real estate agent, because that's where the attention is now, is being yourself. And then curiosity will lead someone to want to know more about you. And, oh, they sell real estate. I happen to want to sell my house. And that's how you get attention nowadays. And being an entertainer now and a brand is something that I grew into. If that's the long answer, I hope I answered all your questions.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. How old are you?
50. Just
You're
turned
50.
50.
So you like started selling real estate when you were like not 12, but 16, 17, 20.
No, I was probably 22, right? I mean, yeah.
And
It was 30
and
years. So yeah, I'm going on my 30th year. So yeah, if I just turned 50, probably 21-ish, 22. Yeah.
now, yesterday when I called you, I wasn't that surprised, but I was surprised. I kind of don't know why I wasn't that surprised, and I don't know why I was surprised. Let me ask. So yesterday I asked you, hey James, you know, I'm your fan. Will you come on my podcast? You're like, hey, I'm just about to start door knocking, or I'm door knocking. This is what you told me. And then I was like, wow, this guy's been selling real estate for a long time. He's cool. He's like on social, and he's door knocking. Interesting, I thought. And then I actually asked a question. I said, James, what's your schedule look like? And you very casually told me you start at 9, I believe. Yeah, you did 9. You told me I prospect on the phone from 9 to 12. And then you said you take a lunch.
No, door knock from 9 to 12.
Door knock. Yeah, you door knock 9 to 12, take a lunch 12 to 1. And then you do what I heard, being a Mike very trained agent, is you do administration from 1 to 2, and then at 2 you do further prospecting if you don't have an appointment. That's what I think, very casually. And then I said, I was like, wow, this guy is a worker. And then I thought, well, James, what time do you work till? And you go, 8 o'clock. Very matter-of-factly.
Yeah.
Is that your schedule? Like,
and it was funny too, because you asked me like 3 times. You're like, 8 o'clock? I go, yeah, 8 o'clock. Like that's. Yes. And I managed to do a lot of other stuff in between. I create, like, there's 2 calendars that I always recommend. I do one-on-one training. So I always recommend to any student or people watch that you have 2 calendars. One that is like your perfect day, and then one that is the day as it ends up being. And with real estate, it's like, if you don't schedule it, it doesn't get done. The thing with me is that maybe I'm just extremely unlucky and I have to work way harder than anyone else. But the numbers that other gurus, even from the very beginning, you're seeing your Mike Ferry trained, or if you're Floyd Wickman and the origins, they would throw out numbers like, if you make 30 contacts a day, you'll get a listing. Where I'm like, no, I have to add like a 0 at the end of that. and then maybe another 0 to get a listing, like 3,000 contact. So it just doesn't disconnect. Because if and I have other people who say, oh, well, if I knock on 100 doors, I'll get a listing. To which I say, tell me where you live and I will stop right now. I will get a one-way ticket to wherever you live. I'll spend the next whatever amount of time getting my license, and I will knock on 300 doors a day, and I will send for my family VIP, first class in 3 months, and I will own your town, because those numbers just don't, there's no way. It's like, there's just doesn't happen. And people say, I make 100 contacts and I get a listing. I'm like, I will fly to your town and I will crush you with those numbers, because for me, I have a minimum of 100 doors knocked, and I have a minimum of 100 contacts called, not dial outs. I'm talking contacts. And by contact, I mean speaking to an individual who can say no, but maybe they don't. Maybe they say yes, maybe they say no, but a decision maker. So I don't count my outbound dials. I count like speaking to someone who says no, or maybe, or yes, which is rare. So my numbers are very different. So it takes me that much more to work that hard. It doesn't work for me. I have to work twice as hard to do it. Same with running. Like, I just can't. Am I running? No matter how much I train, if I lose weight, I just can't do it. Even in the Army, when you would march, like when they're doing their cadence march, I would always look to the guy next to me. I go, is this hard for you? I feel like I'm having to put everything I got just to move my legs as fast as you. I go, this is not, I go, you're just walking. I go, man, it feels like I'm having to like crank me up to 110% just to walk. I don't understand. I just see, and when I walk with my wife, she goes, why are you so slow? I go, I don't know. It feels like I'm going as fast as I can. And that's how real estate is. I have to go 10 times harder for anyone else, because it just doesn't work that way. So
wow.
Yes, that's my schedule.
So,
that's how hard it is.
That's wild that you're so honest to yourself, I guess, in a way. But like, you're like you've worked so hard and you studied so much. Okay, so a couple of things I have to circle back to. You mentioned 100 doors knocked and 100 contacts. Is that a week or a month or a day?
A day.
James, 100 doors knocked and 100 contacts a day.
Yep. I'll show you, since we're on the video crowd, I'll show you my app right now. I had to stop, and I was looking at the last doors going, I could make it. We got to do this live podcast. I'm like, damn, I know I can hit 200 today. I got to stop. And so here is a screen grab of my software that shows my doors. And right there, 121 doors today.
Wow.
And, if you look on my dialer, I use Mojo, and Mojo has what's called a league, where you can see other people's contacts. It's a minimum. So this 100 contacts a door is probably 3 hours, right? 3 hours of door knocking. That's nothing. And then to speak to, with a roughly 10% pickup rate, 100 people with 2 headsets, because I still don't like one headset. I still double fist with 2 computers, 2 lines and everything. 4 hours on a good day. So that's 7 hours a day of prospecting and then, follow up, which is another hour or 2. But yeah, it just doesn't work that way for me. And it's not like, and I remember I joined Mike Ferry's training back in 2001 or something, and they gave me a coach, and it didn't last. I could tell you this story, the backstory, but it ends badly, where like Mike ends up yelling and hanging up on me. It's kind of funny. And he doesn't remember that. He doesn't remember that at all. And so every time I see him, I'll be like, hey, what's up, Mike? He goes, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no, we're just meeting. Well, I've known him for a long time. He's been pissed at me because I don't, when I would do my numbers or turn in the numbers to the coach, again, I only lasted like a month with coaching because they were telling me what I already knew. I've always been a junkie for listening to the audio and learning. Yeah. So to hire a coach for me, when I knew what I had to do and I knew the structure, didn't do what I did, but I understand how many other people do need it because they're not like gravitating to the right coach or the right ideas. And now it's harder than ever because YouTube is just a hodgepodge of bad
Listen,
information, you know?
Stop me there for a second. Listeners, the words he's telling you is golden. It's harder than ever, like finding the right coach in a lot of ways, right?
Oh my God.
Continue.
Everybody with the confidence to open their mouth has an opinion. And, you know, before they used to become real estate managers, they'd be a manager of an office. Now they just become a YouTuber and an influencer. And the worst part is that a lot of the biggest real estate guru influencers never have, or they barely did. And I know, and I'm not going to name names, but the bigger they are, the less they've actually done in the business.
Yes.
And you're listening, and it's the blind leading the blind. And it's the hardest thing because they're telling you information that you would take out somewhere and apply. And because you blindly follow, you'll just walk off the edge of the cliff and your real estate license will go with you. Because your expectation is not in line with reality, because their teachings have never been based from a realistic place. And you will lose, you will fail. And that's why, again, my content and my channels and all of my, you know, what I've done, I've been on YouTube longer than any of these cats out there. And I'm nobody and no popularity because I speak the truth, and I never make it sexy, or I never put taglines, and I show you like the sweat and the grit and the swamp ass and the shiny greasy face, and because they're like, no, show me the easier way. No, okay, well, I'll do that, but if they can make it even easier, they're like, no, I don't. Like, watching what I teach is a train wreck. But it's a successful train wreck. But nobody wants to do this. They don't want to door knock. They don't want to hear 100 doors. They're like, 100. Every time I'm door knocking, because I live stream my door knocking, I'll go on YouTube live. I've got, you know, my I'm right here, and you'll watch me door knock. If you would have logged onto YouTube, you would have seen me, and I carry you with me to the door, and you'll hear me. I'm not like this, you know, I'm right here, low profile. But people will come on and they'll ask, hey, how many doors to get a listing? And I'm like, 4,000. What? No, forget it. I'm like, what did you want me to say? I mean, if you ask a guru, they'll say 100, 20. I'm like, well, you tell me where I can get a listing in 20 doors, and I'll fly myself one way there, and I'll send for my family 6 months later and retire in a year. Because those numbers are not, they're fake. There's no way.
No, but the really popular coach or guru is going to, you don't have to door knock. You don't have to cold call.
Yeah, just TikTok your way. And again, I've got 13,000 Instagram followers. I mean, that's the biggest platforms. I've capped out at the Facebook following. I've capped out on all the big major networks, and I get 0 leads from my social. And I put out the weekly market updates. I do the things they say for me to do. And I don't get people saying, hey, James, I did it. No, I don't know. Maybe there's a dark cloud that says don't give it to him. But I know I get the reactions, and I see the likes, and I see the shares, and I get the community once in a while who are like, oh, James, I love your stuff. And then, you know, and I can see it's there, but to convert, and then the guru will be like, yeah, okay, why are you doing a call to action? I'm like, so that's the difference, right? I should say, call me for your real estate needs. That's what's going to suddenly like, and now my floodgates are going to open. The amount of homes that are being sold in your sphere of recognition is what I call it, where people recognize you and you can control within, you know, realistic geography. There's just not enough there of the pie for you to think that someone's going to serve the pie to you. You've got to go out and chase. And I've always been a chaser. I'll do all of the other things. I do create the TikTok videos. I never dance in front of them, right? And I don't like point to words and text and like, I create the valuable content, but I don't have an expectation that that's where my business is going to come from. I'll do it because I think that's what it should be. But once you're done creating that piece of content, now you got to go and do something to go get your business. Yeah. That's something people don't do.
It's amazing. You have 12,800 Instagram followers. You have 5,000 YouTube, I think I saw a little more than 5,000. I was kind of like, those are good numbers. Like, do you get offers to, I don't know, promote things? Do you make money from YouTube? I think you have a Patreon account as well. Like, but I can't
Anemic. Yeah.
how honest you're being on this call right now. Like, I am shocked. I have never ever spoken to someone so honest. Like I'm the same. Like, I'm fairly good on social. I have 1,800 Instagram followers. A drop is like spit, but I mean, it's a lot more than a lot of realtors. And all these realtors tell me how much business they're getting from these social media platforms. Like, are they just all lying?
Yeah, I don't want to say they are or aren't. I don't understand it. Going to my Facebook, I've had 5,600 or something followers for a very, very, very long time. And yet I've seen others, not naming names, where now they are in the double digits. I can't even get 10,000 followers. I can't even get 10,000 YouTube followers. And I have created YouTube content live nearly 4 or 5 times a week for at least 6 or 7 years. Like this isn't new. And then the live stream, all the content that I've created, and they talk about organic. I mean, I could point to TikTok, for example. To go live on TikTok, you have to have 1,000 followers. And there's no gamifying, there's no hack to TikTok. You either are or you are. So I'm creating what I believe is valuable content, good content. But if you ask the universe if it's good content, the answer is no, because I'm still now not even at 1,000 followers on TikTok, where once you get to 1,000, you can go live. So I'm waiting for that moment. And I'm putting together, again, what I believe to be pretty good stuff comparatively to, if you go to like TikTok and like go through TikTok channels and you see people with 20, 30,000, 100,000, and you're like, that's how this guy has how many followers? And if you watch some of the live content, you have to have 1,000 to go live, and then you like can scroll through live and you're like, how did 1,000 people agree to sign up for this guy when and I'm not like criticizing like gaming where I don't understand that. I'm talking about stuff that we're like, you don't even know why people. And so I'm struggling there too, just to grow to that 1,000 where I can start producing my live stream, because I have a software program that live streams my cold calls too. And I live stream my calls to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch was a gamer channel, but the software I use to live stream, and one of them is TikTok, but I can't turn that on until I get to 1,000. So I have this feeling that once I get to that 1,000 and I start doing live, that maybe that will be my road to fame and glory in this social media. But I don't know. But to be honest about these channels and the failure that they do, it's just it's transparency. And if I wasn't so like realistic on the true expectation of these, then I might lie about where it could be.
Right.
But I've been so disenchanted with the potential for earnings on social that now I just tell it like it is, whether it is or it isn't, the truth people want to hear. I've been put it out there.
I've been thinking about doing something similar, actually. I run a community a Facebook group in the neighborhood I live called Altador, Calgary. And it's like, I put a lot of effort into it, say 2 years ago, and then maybe the start of COVID and the first year of COVID. And like yesterday, I made this really nice post about, supporting community business and, being active, and nothing, like not even a like, those bastards.
Yeah.
So why do you do it, James? Well, I mean, okay, I think you do it now, maybe in the idea of attracting agents to join you with eXp, which is a really smart thing to do, in my opinion. But on that question, maybe we'll get to it again. How long have you been with eXp? Are you motivated by the attraction component of eXp, or is it just a great business to sell in?
I've been with eXp just over a year now, and I actually got a little bit of eXp stock probably about 6 to 9 months before I even joined eXp. And I was with Century 21 from forever, like 28, 29 years almost with Century 21. So the decision to move to eXp, in my opinion, a complete nobody even though we know of eXp, nobody else knows of eXp. When I knock on the door, people are like, eXp, who's that? I'm like, sure. Even today, I'm like, I hate that I have to answer this question because I stayed with Century 21 just so I didn't have to answer that question. It was worth it.
Yeah.
It's like when you open up a McDonald's, people are going to come because they know what they're getting. When you go to the eXp, you really got to put out there, open up a sandwich shop versus a Subway, you're going to get people as long as you do the right. So it's been very hard struggle as far as the eXp. The attraction was I've never been with a 100% commission company. The biggest, really, the thing that put me over the top was in my town, there was a guy who opened up an eXp office, and it was a beautiful bank building in a perfect location. And one day, a year and a half or so ago, right before I joined, there was a big eXp sign on like the perfect location in my town. Like that was it. Like I was sold already, that I was like, wow, okay. I never thought about leaving them, but now this location is really good in the building and before it used to be a Remax and it converted to an eXp. And then when I walked into that building, it looked like a show set. It was gorgeous. I mean, it looked like a Starbucks, it was just beautiful. The whole building. I mean, it had a whole vibe to it. And so I joined within like 48 hours. I was like, I like this. And the 100% commission was fine. I mean, the drawing of the recruitment of agents, again, I have zero expectations with that. I will attract agents and there will be some downline retirement, and I don't know if on your show you can go ahead and edit this, but I wouldn't bank on that being your retirement plan, because I see people putting a lot of attention in that, and it's a full-time job to do that. I've seen some who spend a considerable amount of time and effort to do that and leave eXp, namely the one that I joined under. He came in under Ricky Carruth. So when I joined eXp, I knew at some point that they were going to ask me, who do you want to join under? Because there's like the downline thing. It's not MLM, but there's a downline where there's a guy above you. And when I joined there, I was like, oh man, there was two people I would have jumped on with. It would have either been with Ricky Carruth or Brian Casella, because I knew both of those guys were big YouTubers. And I knew if by being on their downline, I would get to get access to them so I can kind of hang out more. Even though Ricky and I have been friends, I never really met Brian. He knows of me, I know of him. But that I would have had like an in to hang out with them and pick their brain about how are they doing it on YouTube, because they have what I want in the YouTube space, more following. What is their secrets? And anyhow, when I found out when I joined him, he's like, and I said, hey, when do I choose who's on my upline? He goes, you don't get to choose, but my upline's Ricky Carruth. I'm like, oh, okay, choice is made then. I'm cool. Ricky's my friend. We'll just do it from that way. But my broker / upline, the guy who opened up that eXp building about 2-3 months ago, left eXp. So I was with them. He was the reason, that building was the reason I joined eXp. And now that building is no longer eXp. So for the first time in my 29 years, I'm homeless. I'm in my home, but I no longer have, I truly now am in under the eXp umbrella, where I don't know who my parents are, in a sense. Like if it hits the fan, I'm gonna have to log into that Sims and be like, hey, robot broker, I have a question that's hitting the fan, and they're like, oh, turn left and find out. I don't know what to expect. I don't know where, but I've always had this where I could go to an office, right? If you look at all my YouTube videos for the last 10 years, my background's changed a lot, but it was because I would go from home to an office to home. I was very undecided whether I want to work from home, from the office. Now, this is the longest I've been home because I have nowhere else to go.
Right.
So, and this is just over the last couple months, but the show is, why did I move to eXp? Well, that was really the main reason, was the commission splits. It was really nice because I had really kicked butt like that year, man. I made so much money, and they were all like 99 to 100% commissions, very quickly in my town. And unfortunately, the worst client from hell in my life was the first deal I jumped into with eXp. So I found out whether they can handle it, because I had the worst, they put them to the test on how they can handle if it hits the fan. The biggest fan hitter was them. on the nightmares over that guy. Anyhow, when
Yep.
that came back around, they solved it. It was, it was nothing. It was just, sociopaths are out there.
Yep.
Sometimes you get into a contract with them. But the happenings, came back around. I had to do a video very quickly because I've been with Century 21 for so long, and I had been somewhat of a public figure on the YouTube space, where all of a sudden that logo had changed, where everybody who knew me, both in the public and in the social space, knew me with Century 21. So I knew it was going to be big news for some of the followers or whoever watched that. Just dude, that's huge to change. Like, I'd been with Century 21 with different, Century 21 Awards, Century 21 Superstar, Century 21 Premier, Century 21 Grisham Show. So I always kept the logo. I hopped around, but I would never leave the logo. And all of a sudden I left. So I did a video on the 28 reasons, because I was there for 28 years, the 28 reasons why I left eXp. And one of the big ones was,
28 reasons why you left Century 21. Yeah.
Yeah, 28. Well, I couldn't say why I left Century 21, but why I chose eXp.
Oh, why you choose it?
One of them was that for so many years we're told to go be your own broker, because that's the big thing. Oh, why will you pay somebody else? You can be your own broker and make more. Well, I never want to be my own broker because, I don't know anyone I trust enough to work under me. I don't know anyone I trust enough to, if you really want someone to work for you and you want them to do as much as you got to pay them half of your money. Because that would mean that they are just as interested. But when CEOs or someone tries to launch a team and they bring someone on, they only pay 20%, but they expect as much as they get out of themselves from this new person at 20%, it's never going to happen. So I've always felt that if you bring someone on and you expect them to commit as much as you do, then you got to give them as much as they give you, or have some really shiny, some reason why they would stay, especially in real estate. If somebody's a shooting star and you can capture them and like retain them for your own, and start a company. So that's why I never want to be my own broker. But with eXp, that is there. I can be my own broker and choose whether or not I want to expand or recruit. Right. But again, I've never really seen anyone that like, hey kid, you could be a star, or you should get your license. I've got too much on my plate. If I'm going to recruit, I've got a 21-year-old boy and a 23-year-old girl. I'm going to start with my kids first, and my cousins, and keep it in the family. So being your own broker, I think, was the biggest thing. And then when you own stock in eXp, you are, without lying, part owner. So when somebody says, hey, eXp, I never heard of it. It's my company. I'm part owner of a, global. I mean, it's the truth. It's not even being careless with the truth. It's the truth. If I invest even one share, I am part owner of one of the fastest growing real estate companies. Yeah. You haven't heard of us yet, but wait, I'm part of the grow, and I have a couple of wealthy friends who are always like, you should start your own business. I'm like, dude, it doesn't work that way with real estate. I never want to do that. And now when I started with eXp, a couple of them are like, hey, that's a good move. You finally breaking out on your own, because they understand that it is like being your own broker, where you can run your own show. But I think eXp is not for rookies and new people, because you really got to be self-starting. You really got to be like one of those who are self-starting and self-learning. And if something doesn't work out, you got to be the kind of person who goes and researches solutions. And although a lot of the solutions are there in the eXp space through the university, you have to really want to grow. And so the eXp is the best for the people who want to expand and like scale, for the modern day entrepreneur who says, I want to go in and do big. eXp lets you do that. But to be a brand new agent, jump in eXp and expand, you've got to be a special something to like take it to that level.
Right.
And so I've never, the attraction of the people, like, well, Brian Casella just left eXp, right? And I don't know if you know Brian Casella. I don't know. He's the biggest. He's one of the biggest YouTuber real estate. There was this trend for several years where real estate agents joined eXp because they were also YouTubers, and a lot of them now moved to Puerto Rico, like Tim and Julie Harris, the agent Maida. A lot of them. That was like the plan, was be a real estate agent, join eXp, recruit a shit ton of people, move to Puerto Rico. There's a handful of them. They're out there. They're all moving to Puerto Rico. I'm surprised like Brian Casella didn't move to Puerto Rico, but a lot of them did. But all of that work he did to recruit people into this space to eXp, whatever his downline was, the minute he left, that's gone. So he invested all that time and walked away from it.
Where did
The
he go?
agent, clean. Shoot, I forgot the name. It's a new
Realty? Is it a copycat of eXp?
it might actually be. I haven't done enough homework to find. I want to
It's
say
not Real.
Clever or Real. Yeah, Real. He went to Real.
Really? Interesting.
So he went to Real, which is curious because again, when I saw Ricky Caruth go from Remax to eXp, that was one of the like, when I saw Brian, who is an agent, whatever, but as a recruiter and YouTuber, it was almost like if you looked me up 2 years ago, you could have said, James Festini, at some point he's going to go to eXp because he's a YouTuber. Yeah, all the YouTubers who are real estate agents go to eXp because they're going to recruit. In 1 year, I've recruited one person. And I think that one person did one deal, like back in January.
James, are you in the eXp world? Have you engaged in like the ecosystem of eXp? Because
yeah, I played that. I played in there.
Played that.
It's a video game.
I'm surprised at a lot of things I'm hearing. First off, like the truth that you're speaking, like a little bit before, but I actually surprised that without like, I don't want to, I'm in the XP too for reasons, but like different reasons than you're in. I actually, because I've been in business since 2002, so 20 years, and so just like a child compared to you, but I feel I have a lot to give back, and so I'm really curious that you're working so hard. Let's get into production if you don't mind. Like, can you tell us about, in terms of numbers, what's your average price point in your community that you live in? You're in California. What's the name of your community again?
Yorba Linda. It's North Orange County, like close enough to Disneyland to hear the fireworks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your average price point, I'm guessing, is like 800 or a million.
No, it's about $1 million. Yeah, it's about $1 million.
And
yeah, I mean, the house I was knocking today, we're averaging 950. So yeah, it's about $1 million. Still the highest sale, because there are some bigger houses around here. Still the highest sale I ever did was like 1.6 million. I've been into like $3 million listing presentations, but I haven't cracked that. And again, back to like, maybe I just got to try harder, or maybe just the real estate gods are like, no, just stay in your lane. But I'm surrounded by that. You would think that at some point, maybe, and I always thought, okay, maybe because I'm a young kid, but now I'm 50. Maybe it's because I'm immature that I gotta be older, I don't, but my price range here is about $1 million. I average about 20 to 25 sides a year, fairly consistently from the beginning, which usually translates to about, I always measure it by what I take into the tax man. When they do W-2s and all that, the taxes, 1099s, all I know is that piece of paper that the company gives you right around February, what that says.
Right.
I don't look at anything else, my production. Even like if you say, hey, James, how many houses did you sell last year? I honestly, God, don't know, because I don't look back. I can look at my bank account. I just look at my bank account. I'm like, it's not enough, never enough. I don't like, oh, this year I did 25, because it's just, I don't have time to look back, and I don't have the energy to look forward. So I'm pretty consistent in living in the moment, and I'm not as present as I want to be, like to the power of now and Eckhart Tolle, and I'm like in the now, but I don't go too far backwards or forwards. And with that kind of production, the paper that I take to the tax guy is usually between $250 to $350 on a fairly consistent basis. You take $300,000. My budget on real estate, I spend very, very little because I don't advertise. But when I get a listing, I drop probably about $1,500 on video and photography and all sorts of other stuff. So out the gate, on every listing, it's still pretty cheap, but I want it to look like $1 million because it's a reflection of me on the next listing. So
Mhm.
every listing gets, the whole shebang, no matter what size. And then, I spend very little money except for my technologies, and internet. So I very rarely have very many write-offs other than I buy postcards and notepads for door knocking. I spend money on like pens. Everything I own is embroidered. So I do have write-offs in the sense that everything I do always has a write-off angle because I'm always like printing my flag on everything and writing off the print the flag. So yeah, that answers the production question. It's just, I make about
Yeah, it does.
300 grand a year, after taxes kind of thing. I don't have much write-offs, and
How
it's
come
pretty
you're
comfortable.
how come you well, how much time a week do you spend on the social media? And like admittedly saying it's not working. Like, why are you doing it?
Here's my quote. You
Mm.
never want to have to, but you have to want to.
Mhm.
Meaning that you never want to have to do social. You
Mm.
never want to have to create video
Mhm.
because then it becomes a chore or a task where someone makes you.
Yeah.
Why do I do it? Why do I create the videos? I've always kept a journal since I was 14 or 13, let's say about 14,
Yeah.
written journal. Like I've written down thoughts. Every day I sit down on my iPad. It's evolved, but like right here, this is my iPad. So now I keep a journal where I write, and I have images and notes and everything. And it's pretty rad, actually, if you see the video.
Wow.
I now have incorporated like putting images and doodles, and this is my journal. Like I actually write in a
Daily.
journal daily
Great.
forever. Like I said, 14 years old. And so the videos that I do are more for me documenting my life. I really feel like one day I'm going to be 80 or 90, and I'm going to want to be able to press the, I'm going to want to be able to press play and
Mhm.
watch, the rewind, to hand it off to the grandkids one day, to have it'd be cool to have all of these records for generations to come, because when I die, they say you die twice, one where you stop breathing, and then the other one where like someone mentions the last time your name is mentioned.
Right.
And so I feel like I'm leaving a legacy of content creation. And so although a lot of my content is real estate, like here's the market update, or here's a new listing, or here's I also do, like I said, the coaching and training.
Mhm.
That's kind of, I guess I like to give back. I get a thrill out of sometimes an agent. I enjoy seeing like when they get that aha moment where they're like, oh man, I didn't know door knocking could work, and they like text me like, James, I just went out door knocking, I got a listing. I'm like, yeah, dude, I've been following you for like 5 years and I didn't believe it. And so, but I think a lot of it is, it's because I enjoy the result of the art of creating, and I don't do it enough. So it means I don't like it enough right now. For a while, I was doing like the daily vlogs where I would, turn the camera on and I would talk to it and I would post it. And like my kids or my wife would be like, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And more people would follow you because of this. And I'm like, that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If at some point I started doing that, then it would become where I never want to have to, but I
Yeah.
have to want to.
Yeah.
And because I want to, it never becomes a have to. It's because
Oh,
I
good.
want to do.
I love
So what
it.
do I create? Because I want to. With social media, when I tell other agents, they're like, oh man, I want to make more video. Man, I have to make more video. Well, when you have to, it's because you don't want to, and then you won't. I have to
Right.
make my calls. And like, well, you're not really going to because you don't want to. You have to want to. You don't want to have to. And
Yeah.
that to me, so I just make it because I kind of enjoy it. Especially like this new like TikTok has me super fascinated. They've got, even though TikTok is notorious for being like kids doing stupid dances and pointing,
Yeah.
there is this layer underneath it as it grows up that they've evolved into having some really interesting editing software inside of the app itself.
Mhm.
CapCut, for example, is a really incredible piece of editing technology.
Right.
So to go in and like edit the video, and to go in and like take all of these pieces and then like a vlog, for example, and then when you chop it up and then you press play and you look, you're like, it makes you feel good. And so I haven't done like a decent, legitimate vlog style in a long time, really, because my biggest troll hater, my wife, who always stops me from doing what I want to do, like the vlogs, she's like, you should create more real estate content. Tell more people about new listings. I'm like, nobody wants to see that crap. Nobody watches that. And she'll be like, well, nobody's watching your stuff anyhow. I'm like, exactly. If nobody's watching it, let me at least do what I want to record. At least then I'm getting something out of it. But when I do it, I know I had a lot of people when I was relaxed enough to create the content I wanted to create.
Yeah.
I did get a small rewards from people who would say, like Halloween. I had one of my neighbors walk up to me and go, James, I got such a kick out of this video you did. And like they went into like, that was the funniest thing ever. And I have people who come up to me and go, James, I love this. And I'm like, this is great. And then my wife would go to a party or something to hang out, and they'd all be laughing at something in their corner. And my wife would go over there and they'd be watching my Snapchats. Like, this guy's crazy. But the thing is like, it's not real estate. And so to sell it to us and convince us as real estate agents, we always want to do this, like, what's the ROI, man?
Mm.
What are we going to get out of it? Oh, I'm not going to do it if I'm not going to get a listing. It's like, well, that's because you don't want to, you know what I mean? But you're not going to get a listing out of your favorite pastime of sitting there watching the baseball game, but you do it religiously, and you show up at the game and you eat the popcorn, you drink the beer, and that's your release, and you get out of it, and then you're recharged. Leave me alone because I want to do it this way. And it was very, and I've always told my wife, I go, please don't, I don't care what anybody says except for her. She's the only one who can, like, I told her all the time, she should write postcards for Hallmark, because she can really get under your skin. Like, if there's like a Hallmark dark cloud division, where she can just like write, because she knows how to like burst a bubble really well. I love her to death. She's the best ever, But when it comes to like in supporting creativity,
Yeah.
you really want to do it. You don't want to have to do it. So
That's right.
like for you to do what you're doing now, you have to look at it and say, do I love this enough to be doing it a year from now? If nobody ever watches, will I still do this? And if the answer is no, then stop right now, because you will stop. And there's a lot of other things that, I'm guilty of starting and stopping.
Like you, I started my podcast. My first one was called Calgary Living, Real Estate and Lifestyle. And because I'm a realtor, because I'm a little type A, I can't just solely do it because it's a hobby. I have to have some spin on it that might get me business. So I called it Calgary Living, Real Estate and Lifestyle. And then the second one is why I joined eXp. But it's just, for me, it's a conversation. I joined eXp almost 18 months ago. And I love doing it, and especially love when I meet people like you, which actually I've never, ever met a person like you.
Yeah, I hear that sometimes. Well, look, just to take it in a slightly different direction to help you out. That Calgary Living, or that thing, you're on the right track. And I stumbled into something several years ago, which to me is game changing. And I created a product called the Digital Mayor Program. And you've heard Gary Vaynerchuk refer to it, and I don't know where it was coined first, but the Digital Mayor being a concept where you create content and that everybody in the community knows you because you're creating this content around the community, that you go to the coffee shop, you interview the coffee shop, tell people what you're the coffee shop. Oh, you're the greatest coffee. Oh, and by the way, I'm real estate. But when you create content like that and you don't really like it, you're going to stop at some point creating interviews for the local matcha or the local yoga place. And at some point, you'll be like, this is stupid. I'm not getting any likes. And so you're going to abandon it because it's not giving you what you thought you were going to get. So you got to be careful with that. But with what I did, I created and I stumbled into it, and it was not knowing what I got lightning in a bottle, in a sense, was the true definition of a digital mayor. Is in our industry, we are on planet Earth, there are very few occupations that give you license to be the host of the party for a city. You know, the mayor is a D-bag or a biatch, whoever it is. It's like this political figure, which can't be, because you know they're politicians and they have an agenda, so they can't be cool. No matter what they do, they can't be cool.
Yeah.
And real estate agents, for the most part, they have an agenda, they can't be cool. And I think I figured out, because whether I'm trying to be cool or not, I don't care. So therefore, I might actually be cool, but I might actually be a dork. But either way, I don't care. So I'm probably more cool than a dork because I don't care.
Right.
And that makes things cool no matter what you do. When I discovered this thing I call it the bulletin, what I created was a Facebook page on Facebook. And it's called Your Belinda Bulletin. And what I do is I use an application called Zapier. Are you familiar with Zapier? It's like a if this, then that. So what I created, and it works for most towns, not all, depending on the unique situation. But what I do is, for example, in your town, your local mayor there's probably a small newspaper. There's Twitter accounts for the high school, elementary school, water district, Parks and Rec. Every one of these has outlets where they share information about what they're up to, the local library, the building experts. And I discovered that most of them are doing it through Twitter. Twitter is still a very live, active platform for most city-run functions. Facebook is another one. So like my local library, they just built a beautiful multi-million-dollar library in my town. And they've always been fairly active on social media, but I'm also in a city where Richard Nixon was born. So they have the Nixon Library and Birthplace Museum. So they're always doing events. So you can always find where people are posting what's happening in your town.
Right.
So inside of your local Facebook, you may or may not have found certain groups by the name of, you grew up in X town when, or X town buzz. What town are you in?
Altadore, Calgary.
Altadore, Calgary.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's probably a Facebook page called You Grew Up in Altadore when, maybe.
Yeah.
And it kind of relates to like little memes and stuff, like the local beef shop that was there and now it's not there. And they'll show a picture and you're like, yeah, I remember that because I grew up there too. And so it's kind of like this subculture, like Stranger Things 80s vibe where people like nostalgic, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. There's another one that probably says Moms of Altadore Facebook group page, where there are like 2,000 or 3,000 of them there. And you try to create your thing here. And there's another one, the buzz pages. And there's a guy on YouTube or Facebook that kind of launched it, but I think they did it wrong too, because I know I'm 99% sure I've discovered the secret that very few have. And I've seen some others do, and maybe I just haven't noticed. But a lot of real estate agents started creating these pages surrounding the community events. Like in my town, there's the Your Belinda Buzz. There's the Your Belinda News you can use. So maybe you have one called Altadore News you can use in your town. Do you?
No.
Okay, go into Facebook and search out the largest groups in Facebook in your town. Yeah. And you will probably find that there are groups in your town that are anywhere from 1,000 to 20,000 strong surrounding your city, whether they're moms or news you can use or something. So what I did was I joined the Yorba Linda buzz, but because I'm James Festini and I do so much self-promotion through other areas, I have my van wrapped and I do open
saw your van.
houses and I do all sorts of stuff, that I got kicked out of that buzz group fairly quickly. Not because I said, hey, I'm James Festini. No, because that would violate their terms of service. But by saying James Festini or posting something or going live on their page, like if I wasn't a real estate agent, I probably wouldn't have got kicked out. If I went live on an event in the town, if I'm like, hey, everybody, hey, I don't own the page, the Yorba Linda Buzz, and it's about 30,000 people. Everybody in this town knows the buzz of Facebook. But normally it's just people bashing Donald Trump or like a lost cat or like stop pooping on my lawn. It's just a bunch of garbage, just locals being locals. Like there's another one called Nextdoor. Probably you may or may not have it. Nextdoor is another local group, but Nextdoor is more like a social, but it's really restricted to the geography.
Yeah.
But it's super powerful in Nextdoor. I've leveraged Nextdoor through my artistic talents. I'm an artist. So I jump my fence. I live on a fairly busy street. I jump my fence and I do these really nice chalk art pieces. And when I jump my fence, it's on a main avenue next to a church. So thousands of people see my artwork on the other side of this fence. And every time I do a piece, it goes viral. Like when I buy viral, I mean, at least 1,000 people like, share, or comment on my piece of art. But I'm not going out there painting a real estate sign that says James Festini Realtor. I'm being myself as an artist. Oh, and by the way, I'm an agent. And I believe, as I said in the very beginning, everything that you do now is being interesting, unique, and energetic or enthusiastic or involved in something. Oh, and by the way, I'm a real estate agent. Where right now, if as a real estate agent, the local biggest newspaper went belly up, and I went to you, Brian, and I said, hey, man, I'm the CEO of the local Altadare newspaper, and we're going belly up. Here, you can have it. As a real estate agent, maybe not you, would probably put your face on the cover of that newspaper on its first printing and say, hey, everybody, I'm a real estate agent, and now I own the newspaper.
Yeah.
You would lose 50% of your subscribers on the first day because they don't want to see your shit on the front page.
Right.
That's not where they're subscribing. And they'd be like, oh, 50%. Fuck. Okay, so I'll put myself on the second page and I'll put the news on the first page. And then you'd lose another 25% because they don't want to see that shit on the second page. They don't want to see shit anywhere.
Yeah.
They want news. That's what they're there for. And you tank the newspaper. What I've done through this buzz, this Yorba Linda Bulletin, when I got kicked out of the buzz, I was like, these guys. So what I started doing, and this was before, because in 2016, in 2015, I was the #1 agent in a town 40 miles away. Wow. I ripped myself up and started brand new in a whole new community. Maybe you didn't know that, but I went from #1 agent in this town to a complete nobody in the town I'm in now. 6 years ago, nobody knew who I was. I didn't know the streets. My kids didn't know anybody. I had no connections. I was zero, like nobody. And hit the ground running, knocked on 100. Well, back then it was 200 doors a day and 200 contacts a day. I went full beast because I had to start over. I had to start my name. And part of this was this launch. So going back to my point, this Yorba Linda Bulletin, what it does is it goes onto the internet, you like with Google keywords and Twitter, and it scrapes the internet for anything associated with Yorba Linda, anything associated with Yorba Linda, it posts to Yorba Linda Bulletin. Oh. So if the library is doing something, it goes into that page. If the local water district is holding an event, it goes to that page. If the local golf course is doing something, it goes to that page. So it's like I created a curating automated algorithm through Zapier to search the internet for anything with Yorba Linda. Yeah, put it in that page.
Well, that sounds like a lot of gurus, a lot of coaches would tell me to do this. And it sounds like you're telling me to do it too, but already you told me it doesn't work. Like, does that result in I love James and I'm going to list my house with him? How
See,
is that?
that's where most agents would put their face on the front page of the newspaper and they would tank the newspaper.
Okay, so what do you do?
I didn't put my name on the newspaper until I got 1,000 people organically
Okay.
looking at that page. Now, I mean, I could share with you another time, but if you go to your Belinda Bulletin, especially if there's an event, for example, it's highly likely that whatever biggest event in your town, whether it's a lobster fest or a turkey trot or a fucking big Easter egg hunt or something, highly likely that the event coordinator didn't create a Facebook event page. So I created. And
Oh,
I say, your Belinda Bulletin is helping them. And nobody has ever come to me and said, hey, your Belinda Bulletin, why are you creating this event? We already did it. I'm like, well, because, and if they ever did, I'd be like, because you got one person to see it and I got 1,000 people. Do you want me to share this event or not?
yeah.
I had to create my own event for people to see it. Because if I share your event once on my page, that's all you're getting out of me. Otherwise, I'm going to put on my page. And if I create the event on my page, yes, it's duplicated in Facebook. They don't care, but I'm sharing on my page. Do you not want me to share your event, your fucking car show or not? They'll be like, oh, no, no. Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm like, yeah, thank you. So Oktoberfest, biggest event in the city.
Yeah.
Lobster Fest. Big. So what it is, it's created by your Belinda Bulletin. It's not James Festini. It's your
Yeah.
Belinda Bulletin.
Oh.
If you saw the engagement, the shares, and the organic likes of your Belinda Bulletin, if you looked at it right now,
Yeah.
I use Zapier to automatically post. So it's probably sharing 10, 15 pieces of content a day automatically
Yeah.
about your Belinda to this page. I think at this point, your Belinda Bulletin has somewhere in the realm of 3,000 followers.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about but they're not followers for James Festini. They're following your Belinda Bulletin.
Yeah.
And so now when I get a new listing, I waited till I hit 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers before I said James Festini at all.
Yeah.
But people are curious by nature. So when they go in there, they can be like, James, you're Belinda Bulletin. Who is this? Oh, it's James Festini. And then there's a real estate agent, but he's not self-promoting. So what I've been doing is I've been creating the Your Belinda newspaper online by using these things.
Yeah.
And because I'm the only one who's a real estate agent who controls this media, no other realtor can do anything because nobody can advertise. It's all me. I'm not creating a group where everyone can say whatever they want because that would be a shit show. I'm creating a page where I control the flow of information. You create a group, anyone can post anything. You create a group that big and you're going to get realtors and car tire repair shops posting shit all day in groups. But I created a page. So when you see the page, when it gets to 1,000, when I got it to 1,000, like I said, it's about 3,025. I think it's about 3,000 likes and 3,000 subscribers. So between the likes and subscribers, it's about 3,000. It's probably about 5,000 to 6,000 humans are engaged with that page. So you tell me where you would get organically 5,000 people in your town looking at your shit. You ain't going to get it by saying, I'm a real estate agent. It'll never fucking happen unless you're, what's that guy from $1 Million Listing?
I don't know. But maybe Brian Casella.
No, not even Brian Casella would get that kind of leverage because nobody knows him. It's Ryan Searhan. Unless you're Ryan Searhan, no one's following your shit. No one's following real estate agents, but you're creating a media outlet. And so I have had people. So when I get a listing or I do a market update, like in the next day or two, I'm going to do a legitimate market update, not a talking head noise. I do a newscast, right? Yeah. So I create a market update. I can post it there now because I've earned my following. Now I can put an ad in there. So now once a month, sometimes twice a month. I'll go in there, I'll say, here's James Festini Real Estate. And no one else can advertise because I control the flow of information. So now my wife the other day, she goes, should we start charging for advertising? I'm like, you could call the tire shop, call the politicians and say, well, maybe not the politics, the way people unsubscribing, but call the tire shop and say, hey, I've got an average of 5,000 to 6,000 people who look at this. Do you want to?
Yeah.
And you will get people who pay you $100 or $200 a month just to run that, just to put a tire shop. Hey, we're having a tire sale. Just that's all. And you can make a couple bucks off it. There was a point where I was paying a local Facebook lady who had a new agents group of 20,000 followers. I was paying her $100 every 60 days to let me post once a day in her group. I would pay her to give me permission to advertise in her group.
Yeah.
And once I made that offer, all of a sudden she had 10 other agents doing it. I was like, forget, I'm not buying you anymore because she sold out. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I go, you're getting all of these other people who are also real estate sale trainer and coaches because it was a new agents group. So I wanted to show them prospecting and all that. And all of a sudden she sold out to people who were like, no, you don't need to cold call anymore. I'm like, dude, you're selling advertising to my competition who aren't even my competition because they're telling people how to fail. I go, it's not competition. That's just the normal thing. So with what you're doing and what I'm doing with this social media group, yes, no one's going to say, I love what you're doing. But now as people, if you're doing a good job of being Bryon Howard on other areas, it will connect. If you're doing shitty on being a real estate agent, or promoting yourself through other avenues, or just plain being curious and interesting or someone else. But because of my art and what I do there, I can share my art pieces there. And next door, it goes bananas. Like if you see my next door, oh my God, people drop off cakes and ice cream. And it's like a shrine now that I've created on my art that people come to my door and thank me. And they post on there, oh my God, thank you. We look forward to your work. It's like,
really?
Yeah, but if you, I don't think you can see the next door results, but it's just bananas how incredibly effective the next door has been for me. But has it gotten me listings? Have people say, I think with the next door, I've probably gotten 2 listings through next door, not because I'm advertising, but because because I'm part of the community. Like I do at the end of the school year, I rent an ice cream truck. And I started a parade in my little community. Cost me $300 to rent an ice cream truck. So the last day of school, we put out flyers and a little map. And my community has like a little perfect circle. So I've done it 3 years in a row, and the last year was huge. Probably about 300 people showed up, and it cost me about $400 worth of ice cream. I call an ice cream truck. They show up. We put up tents. We have tables. A bunch of the mothers get together. We decorate their bikes, and I have started a parade in my part of town.
Right on.
And so people have said, James, I've had 2 listings from that. And it's because people say, I hired you because you're so active in the community, that you give back to the community.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm James Festini, the real estate agent. It's because I'm giving back. Oh, and by the way, I'm a real estate agent. So if I took that Your Belinda Bulletin vibe that I'm doing, right? And if I had the time and the patience, I could sit down every Sunday morning and go live on YouTube and say, good morning, Your Belinda. It's the Your Belinda Bulletin Live, this edition. And all I have to do is go back to the week's worth of automated content that it's posted for me and just kind of scroll and, hey, did you see that happen? And I could do, because I'm good at television and I'm really good at improvising and doing picture in picture. I could just put this video on the screen and be like, hey, did you see that? Oh, and riff it. I could take live call. I could do a live variety show based on the weekly content and called, Sunday Morning Your Belinda. And I could create a video called Sunday Morning Your Belinda, post it to my Your Belinda Bulletin, create a podcast, post it to there, create a YouTube channel. If I had the time and patience, and I would create a news network around my city.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, I do real estate. But that's the thing. It's not the ROI. It's about that. Because people are going to be like, that's James Festini. Is it what? And I've had people, and within 6 months, I had people saying, I saw you somewhere. One day it was crazy because I did a live stream of the Oktoberfest and I
Yeah.
posted it to the Yorba Linda Bulletin.
Right.
So I went live on the Yorba Linda Bulletin on my selfie stick. I'm like, hey, everybody, it's James Festini. I'm the host of Yorba Linda Bulletin. If you didn't know, I'm not saying I'm a real estate agent, but I got my fucking logo right here, so I don't need to say it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's James Festini. I'm the host of Yorba Linda Bulletin. I'm also a realtor. Anyhow, look, guys, I'm here at the startup of the Oktoberfest. They're putting up the stuff anyhow. Don't forget, it's starting Friday night, because I have the license to be the ambassador for the city, right? I have the
Right.
license to be the clown of the town or whatever. I
Host the
can do
party.
whatever I want. I host the party. And I went door knocking later that day, and it's the weirdest thing. I haven't had it happen since, but it's the craziest thing. Almost Twilight Zone, where I thought I was being pranked. Where one guy goes, "I saw you somewhere. Why do you look familiar?" You know what? Didn't I see you live on? Was it on Facebook? Were you doing something with the community or the? I'm like, yeah, I do the Oktoberfest. I go, yeah, I'm the host of the Yorba Linda Bulletin. They're like, oh my God, I love that. I get all my news and information. I'm like, oh, what's up with that? I'm like, yeah, he goes, that's cool. I go, you thinking about selling? He goes, no, I'm not. I go, well, if you need anything, here you go. But now, fan for life, right? Good day.
Now,
About a block away, and someone, same thing, where they're like, I saw you somewhere. I'm like, maybe you saw me do a live stream on the Yorba Linda Bulletin. Like, that's yeah, man. So I did this one thing on the Yorba Linda News You Can Use, which I befriended them because they're the other biggest outlet.
yeah.
And I went to them. I said, look, man, I got kicked off of the buzz, and I want you to know it's not my intention to advertise, but I'm the host of doing this. Can I have permission to share some of this content? I'm not violating anything, but this is what I do. And they're like, yeah, sure, James. So now I'm in with like the other biggest social platform in my town because I'm not agents. And I told him, I said, if you ever see something that looks like it is, it's not, call me on it. But otherwise, when something big is happening in the town, I want permission to share the event. So when the Oktoberfest comes on, the church puts on the event on Facebook, but I also do it. So now it looks like the Yorba Linda Bulletin and the church annual Oktoberfest, and I share it to the local Facebook group. There's a big Facebook group. And now it looks like the Yorba Linda Bulletin. So when they click on the event, it clicks to Yorba Linda Bulletin and they like it there. And now I see them having their own comment thread on my page that I control. And when I see that kind of control on my page and I see who it is, because they're commenting on my page, I have permission to invite them to like my page. So I go through every once in a while and I'm looking, have I invited them? No, boom, boom. And so I'm growing. That's the only like kind of non-organic thing is I'm forcing those people who are new to my page to come like it. I'm not saying come like my page. I'm inviting them because they made a comment on my page to like it. And they're like, oh, I didn't know this. And so I'm growing it. On a final note, I did the same thing on a live. Someone hit my car in a parking lot in my high school probably about 3 years ago. They clipped the corner of it. And that's how I got kicked off of the buzz. That's right. And so I'm wearing my suit and my vehicle's wrapped, and it's like Friday night. And I was pissed. Like somebody like cornered it and a piece of the car came off of it. And it's right after the high school game. So I went to the Yorba Linda buzz, the biggest buzz everywhere. And I went live. And I'm like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's James Festini, local resident of Yorba Linda. And sorry to bother you this late at night, but I got to tell you something. I'm leaning into my car like this. And I'm like, and I picked up the piece and I go, if any of you guys know whose this is, I go, somebody hit my car. And I'm like backing away from my van, which has got my wrap on it. I know what I'm fucking doing. It's got my wrap on it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, somebody clipped in, da-da-da. And I'm like, and so I'm walking away and I'm talking and walking and doing like the vlog style, walking away from it. And so I stopped that. By the time I was done with it, 16,000 views had gone through, right? It got viral for seeing that. But the comment thread, this guy's hilarious. Oh my God, who did that? Who's that? Like it went, give this guy his own show. And like they were praising me and like getting a kick out of like me calling someone out for hitting my car and like the stop, because people don't really behave like that on camera. Nobody has that talent because they haven't been live for, but I made it like this entertaining, but it was real. Like somebody hit my car. And I shit you not, I went door knocking. Then I was in my front yard the next morning and I'm, doing something in my front yard and some complete stranger pulls up in front of my house and goes, James. did you find out who hit your car? Like, I don't even know who that was. I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, what's up? He's like, yeah, I saw your thing, man. It was hilarious. I'm like, yeah, dude, someone hit it. And I'm door knocking later that day, and mile
On a
away
Saturday. On a Saturday.
on a Saturday. Yeah, it was after the game. Knock. James. I'm like, do we know each other? He goes, dude, I saw your thing last night. Did you find out who hit your car? I'm like, is this some sort of prank show? I'm like, no, dude. Man, that was so hilarious how you did that. And man, I saw your car, dude. And I go, yeah, I'm probably going to get kicked off of the buzz because I put and then like, yeah, within 24 hours, every agent on the buzz was like, fuck this guy. He's putting his name on there. And I had other people. By the end, it started turning. We're like, I guarantee you this guy just wanted to put his van on the thing. He probably didn't even get his car hit. I'm just like, fuck, right. And so my wife also got kicked off of the buzz, and she's not even a part of that, but because her last name is Festini. Well, because I'm so good at getting my name out, just saying Festini is advertising,
Yeah.
And
So
I was gone.
at this point, when you're hitting 100 doors a day, like you must know everybody in your neighborhood. Or are you like, how many thousands of doors are you hitting? What's your reach? Are you focused on your own
Probably
neighborhood?
about 40,000 doors.
40,000 doors, and you try to like you hit them. I guess it sounds like
I'd say once a year. I feel like once a year. That's about right.
I see. Well, and you use some sort of app on you can find all this on YouTube. I think
Mojo. Yeah. I use the Mojo as a door knocking app that I help them develop. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Cool, man.
See, man, I kept you a lot of overtime, man, but it's got a lot of story to tell.
There's a lot to tell. Well, listen, I look forward to this relationship continuing, James. I want to keep in touch with you, and I really appreciate everything you've said. I think that you need to dig in a little. You have so much to offer to agents that any agent that would be thinking about joining real estate would benefit from joining you. But it sounds like, and you have so much to give. I challenge you to start maybe giving on that individual level with the attraction.
I have been.
You give so much.
That's why it's there. As you can see,
yeah.
When I'm live prospecting, this is what you see. If you've never gone into my live room, when I'm doing my live cold calls, it's right there. But as you can see right below here, while I'm cold calling, you see all of my Mojo stats. There's a chat room right there, and all of my Mojo stats are right there. And when it rotates, it does say, ask me about joining eXp. But
oh, good.
And I get people go through. Then I share a couple of the sponsors, Cole, for my phone. But when I'm doing this rotation of sponsors, I do say, but it's so incredibly rare, and I don't focus on it because I don't want to be that agent who does do the recruiting, because I think there's agents out there actually who are full-time. Like there's a guy named Leo Robles who's locally here, who that's all he does is recruit. He's got a good channel and a good YouTube, and he's good at recruiting.
Yeah.
And he's doing everything he can. He spends a lot of time recruiting. And then he walks away from it, like if anything changes, like whatever happened with these guys. So, it could be something where I bring in a bunch of people, but, and you can edit this out if you want, but, it's today I was like, man, and I told my wife too, I said, we might go back to C21 just because, what I joined and what I'm extracting isn't what I'm getting now. I know that it's a good, that all of the reasons why I joined are still there. But at the end of the day, it really is, it's frustrating. I'll know the money's there, but to knock on a door and have people be like, who, what, I always felt like I didn't need it, and I don't. But it sure does lend a hand to people having to not wonder what they're getting. You know what I mean? When people, like I said, when they go to a coffee shop, it's such a huge risk. If you're a fan of coffee and you like drinking coffee and you order Starbucks every day and you drink your whatever, for you to go into another coffee shop and they'll have it there, that double iced latte, you're taking such a huge risk because you're like, you don't know what to expect. But then again, I would tell people sometimes, I was with Century 21 for 20, and some of them be like, Century 21 still around? I'm like, eh. So the
Yeah,
reasons
yeah.
why I'm there is still there, but the reasons why, but when I would call and I would say I'm with Century 21, there's no question. When they see this logo, it's almost like when I go door knocking, should I even bother wearing a shirt with a logo? Because no one knows it anyhow,
At this
am
point,
I,
I would
you
think
know,
it'd be James Festini, powered by
yeah,
eXp.
it does. And that was one of the biggest things too, is that I shouldn't put so much into that, because when I ever left eXp, it would be because it's James Festini. And that's how one of the big reasons people do it is it's James Festini powered by eXp, just
Yeah.
like you said. And so I might be lending too much to it. And
I
I've told
think
my wife, like on my other shirts, it says Realtor. It doesn't say eXp. It says eXp real small on the logo, and the big Realtor logo there, because I don't want to wave a flag for a company ever again. I am my own brand, but
That's the brand, yeah. I found personally, like when the city I'm in, the Remax has at least 40% market share, maybe as high as 50 sometimes, getting less.
Remax is big in
And,
Canada. Yeah.
and I was with Remax for 15 years and then left it for eXp, but I found the transition is like, it made no difference. So I'm just wondering, is that mindset, James? And I've heard that about others as well. Like I was with Remax because it had market share, but when I was done with it, I found that it's really Bryon Howard for the buyers and sellers. So
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you going to do? This is a podcast, and you go to the iTunes space, and it's a YouTube. So you put it on YouTube. It's you chop it up in a bunch of little pieces and put it on Spotify. Okay. Well, send me the links.
I'm not that organized to chop it up and put it into little pieces yet, but that may change for this episode.
Yeah, because there's so many pieces. Yeah.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Cool, man. I hope you stay a big fan.
Well, I am a big fan, and I'll stay a big fan. I'm going to share this with my sort of young guys that I'm working with. A lot of valuable information, and I'm going to encourage them to follow you.
All right. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day and good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Well, folks, that was a great show with James Festini. What a longtime agent and a superstar, rock star at what he does. A few surprises for sure at some of our discussion, but real honest, truthful fellow. Sort of said that social media doesn't work, and then gave us a lot of information on Yorba Linda news you can use, but more importantly, Yorba Linda. Yorba Linda news you can use is not his, but like a partnership there. And his was Yorba Linda. Oh, Yorba Linda Bulletin. How do you spell Yorba Linda? It's YORBA space Linda, LINDA. And so, yeah, it's really, really entertaining. That guy is a beast. And I'm surprised he's not doing more business than sort of 20 to 30. Because his skill level is obviously high. Folks, who do you know who wants to be the next guest on why I joined eXp? This is Bryon Howard, over and out for now. See the links in the show notes.